The first time she saw this street, she refused to get out of the car. "This is where they took me," she said. "As a social worker, I am fluent in the language of trauma. I understand its insidious echoes, the way it can shape a life, the way it can hide in the quietest corners of a person's soul. My job is to help families navigate the systems that are supposed to protect them, systems that too often fail. I thought I had a professional and emotional armor against the world's tragedies. I thought I knew the shape of fear. Then, on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, my 6-year-old daughter showed me a terror so profound it shattered everything I thought I knew about memory, history, and the very ground beneath our feet. The street was called Sycamore Lane. It was one of the prettiest streets in our historic town, lined with beautifully restored Victorian homes and ancient, sprawling trees. My husband, Tom, a history teacher, had always admired the architecture. We were taking a different route home that day, a small detour to show our daughter, Lily, the gingerbread houses. Lily was a fearless child. She was the first to climb the tallest slide, the one who would pick up fuzzy caterpillars, the leader of her small pack of friends at school. She was a sunbeam of a girl, and her world was one of adventure and joy. That's why her reaction was so jarring, so utterly out of character. As I turned the car onto Sycamore Lane, a change came over the back seat. The happy chatter stopped. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Lily's face, her skin pale, her eyes wide with a terror I had only ever seen in the most distressed children in my professional caseload. Her little body was rigid in her car seat. "Lily, sweetie, what's wrong?" I asked, slowing the car. She began to shake her head, a frantic, desperate motion. "No," she whimpered. "No, no, no." Stop the car. I pulled over to the curb in the dappled shade of a massive sycamore tree. "Honey, what is it? Did you see something scary?" She wouldn't look at me. She was staring out the window at the beautiful, serene houses, her breathing coming in ragged sobs. And then she said the words that would become the new, terrifying foundation of our lives. "This is it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This is the street. This is where they took me." I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. "Who took you, Lily? We've never been on this street before." "The gray ladies," she cried, shrinking back in her seat as if trying to make herself invisible. "They said my mother was ... unfit. They said I had to go with them. They put me in a black car, and they took me away. Unfit." The word was a clinical, bureaucratic dagger. It was a word I had written in case files. It was not a word a 6-year-old should know. In that moment, looking at my terrified child, I wasn't a mother. I was a social worker staring at a victim, and the crime scene was this beautiful, sun-dappled street. The aftermath of that car ride was a quiet, tense landscape of fear. Lily refused to go anywhere near that part of town. Her nightmares, once rare, became a nightly occurrence. She'd cry out in her sleep about the quiet room, a place where you had to sit alone in the dark. She'd whisper about the bell for meals and the lumpy beds all in a row. She began hiding things in her room, a piece of toast from breakfast tucked under her pillow, a small toy hidden in a sock. It was the behavior of a child who had known profound scarcity, a child who had learned not to trust that the next meal or the next comfort would be there. Tom, with his historian's mind, was deeply disturbed. He knew the official history of Sycamore Lane. It was the historic heart of the town, built by wealthy merchants in the late 19th century. There were no records of any institutions, no black cars, no gray ladies. He searched through his textbooks and local histories, finding nothing. "It has to be a transferred anxiety," I tried to reason, using the language of my profession to build a wall against the impossible truth. "She's worried about something at school, and it's manifesting in this elaborate story." But I didn't believe it. The trauma in her eyes had been too specific, too authentic. The first clue came from Tom. He was leafing through a dense academic history of the state when he found a single dismissive footnote. It mentioned that many towns in the early 20th century had charitable homes for orphans and the children of the indigent, many of which were later shut down amid rumors of neglect. It mentioned one in our town by name, the St. Jude's Home for Wayward Children, its location long since lost to development. St. Jude's. The name felt like a key. Our investigation became targeted. It wasn't about a street anymore. It was about a place. We went to the county archive, to a room I knew. Well, from my own work. We found the old Sanborn fire insurance maps, detailed diagrams of the town from decades past. We turned to the map from 1940, to the page showing Sycamore Lane, and there, taking up a full third of the block, was the massive institutional footprint of a single building. It was labeled simply St. Jude's Home. It had stood exactly where. A row of pristine, modern luxury homes now sat. It had been torn down in the early 1960s, its history paved over and forgotten. But not by everyone. The official records for the home were gone. A fire at the county courthouse in the 70s had conveniently destroyed them. So we turned to the unofficial history, the memories the town had tried to erase. We found them in letters. To the editor in old newspapers, complaining of pale, thin children seen playing behind a high fence. We found them in the self-published memoir of a woman who had been sent there in the 1950s. Her book was a harrowing account of a childhood spent in a place devoid of love. She described the cold, cruel nuns who ran the home, whose gray habits earned them the nickname, the Gray Ladies. She wrote of the constant hunger, the lumpy cots lined up in a cavernous, cold dormitory, and the dreaded quiet room in the basement, a form of solitary confinement for any child who broke the rules. She described being taken from her mother, a loving but poor Irish immigrant who was deemed morally unfit by a court that saw poverty itself as a character flaw. The system I worked in, the system I tried to make better, had a long and brutal history. The ghost of it was living in my house. The final devastating confirmation came in the last chapter of the book. The author wrote about her only friend at St. Jude's, a quiet, gentle girl named Anna, who had been taken from her mother for the same reason. Anna, the author wrote, had a weak chest and was always cold. She died one winter from pneumonia, a death the author was certain was caused by neglect. She was buried in an unmarked grave in a small potter's field behind the orphanage, a piece of land that was now someone's beautifully manicured backyard. Anna, the name of the worn, one-eyed teddy bear that Lily slept with every single night. A bear she sometimes called Anna's bear. A bear she once told me she had to keep warm because Anna gets cold so easy. My professional armor was gone. My understanding of the world was shattered. The work I do every day is to prevent the very trauma my daughter was reliving every night. The beautiful homes on Sycamore Lane suddenly seemed like gravestones, their cheerful facades masking a foundation of forgotten tears. We never told Lily what we found. We just held her closer. We reassured her that she was safe, that she would never be taken, that her mother was fit and strong and would always be there. A few months ago, spurred by an anonymous package of research materials sent by Tom, a local journalist, wrote a feature story about the lost history of the St. Jude's Home. The story caused a small stir. There is now talk of putting up a small plaque on Sycamore Lane, a quiet acknowledgement of the children who lived and suffered there. Lily is better. The nightmares have faded. She no longer hides food. It's as if the world finally acknowledging. Her Anna's story has allowed her soul to rest. Last night, I was tucking her into bed. She looked up at me, her eyes clear and present, and reached out to touch my face. You're a good mommy, she said softly. My other mommy would have liked you. She was kind, too. I kissed her forehead, my heart a tangled knot of love and a sorrow. That was not entirely my own. I work to keep families together. It is my life's purpose. And I now know, with a certainty that chills me to my core, that I am not just Lily's mother. I am the mother that Anna was denied. I am the safe harbor her soul spent 70 years searching for. And as I watch my daughter sleep peacefully in her warm, safe bed, I have to wonder, how many lifetimes of pain must a soul endure before it finally finds its way home?